Ladies and gentlemen, let's Gaming Syndicate video. We're going to be looking at Assassin's Creed Syndicate on the PlayStation 4 and pitting it against the Xbox One version of the game and seeing just how well the Ubisoft have managed parity across both platforms. Because many of us are still waiting for the PC version of the title, we will be of course doing a full frame rate test and further graphical analysis once the PC version is out, but for now consider this a kind of early impressions of what we've found thus far. So kicking things off with the resolution, there is parity across both platforms. 900p is used, and that means of course that the resolution is effectively upscaled to 1080p. It's a fairly pleasing effect, but when combined with some type of temporal AA solution, which is of course drawing information from the previous frame most likely, there is unfortunately some subpixel artifacts. This is particularly noticeable on finer details such as hair, and this is prevalent across both versions of the game. It doesn't always appear, particularly if you're at certain angles. However, at less flattering positions of the camera, you can definitely notice it, and this also leads into another problem across both versions of the title, and that is texture filtering. Now, texture filtering has definitely been a sore subject of this next generation of consoles, and Assassin's Creed Syndicate is no different. There is most likely texture filtering in place, however on both versions it's pretty damn low. Possibly up to 8 times, but I'm going to probably throw a pin at 4 times at max, which is not particularly great if I'm honest with you. However, the actual textures themselves across both versions are pretty much interchangeable. Sometimes the Xbox One can have slightly muddier textures, however, simply because of the level of detail problems within the game's engine itself, this may actually be not really a major problem with the Xbox One. In other words, when you go into certain areas, you will likely notice that details do just pop in, texture details improve on the fly, and that's just of course the way the game has to work to simply reduce the load on the system's resources. It's obvious after the issues with the previous Assassin's Creed, that would of course be Unity, that Ubisoft had to do things to improve the performance across the versions. Therefore there are reductions in cloth simulation. It's not massively noticeable, but if you are playing around with, say, curtains, that type of thing, you might notice it. Crowd numbers have certainly been reduced. They were most likely the biggest culprit of frame rate dips across both versions of the Unity, and various shadow resolutions are present without a question. The shadows are still pretty damn good, but the quality isn't quite up to par, and you will notice sometimes inaccuracies with both shadows and lighting, and indeed there do seem to be fewer indirect light sources which are appearing on screen at once. But with that said, it still looks fairly impressive, and London as a whole looks very visually amazing actually at certain times, particularly when you go on high towers, for example Big Ben or any of the towers in the game. But unfortunately you will notice that it's not really a step above what Unity has managed, and in actuality the graphics and visuals are what I would consider to be more of a side grade. I do want to quickly discuss the performance of the game, although we haven't done a full frame rate test here, which is why it's not in this video, but we have run some analysis in the back end, if you will, or RGT, and we can safely say that the PlayStation 4 version actually turned things on its head in comparison to what happened with Unity, where the Xbox One had a large advantage actually in Unity. This is no longer the case. The PS4 version has a slight advantage, maybe 3-4 frames per second at most, but still that is something to keep in mind. If you do own both platforms, along with the higher frame rate, the PlayStation 4 does also come with extra content, although this extra content is hardly essential, but it is extra content, so if you are a big fan of the series, along with the higher frame rate, you may be better off with the PS4 version in this particular instance. With all of that said, when the PC version eventually arrives, it will be very interesting to see just what Ubisoft have managed to achieve in that particular platform, and how well of course the consoles managed to stack up. With that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon, take care, bye for now.